You are welcome back. This is the second video in the Introduction to Web Design and Development series. I am Dr. Peter Ajewole, and I'm your trainer in this skill. Now, we are talking about web design with core technologies. In the previous video, I talked about different approaches to web design and development. I talked about website builder. I talked about web design with CMS. Now I want to talk about web design with core technologies. What are these core technologies? They are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, programming language, and database software. Don't worry about all these terms. I'm going to talk more about them. Now, when you are designing website with core technologies, that means you are building your site from scratch using several technologies. So you put these technologies together, then you build a site. I want to tell you, you can build anything with this approach. You can build school portal, e-commerce, payment gateway, social media, banking solution, anything. You can build it because it is the only way to become a professional web developer. Now, it has a but I don't think it's a disadvantage. You need time to learn them. That is the only caveat here. You have to take time to learn the technologies. So that is the only thing. Is that an advantage? Well, you can answer me in the class group. So that is our focus in this training. Now let's look at two types of websites that are commonly available. We have static website. We have dynamic website. A static site provides little or no interaction with users. So it has no database, and you don't download, you don't upload, you don't log in, you don't do anything. You just read the site and go. Most of the government websites are like that. But a dynamic website has database. You interact with users. Users can enter data, modify some information, and you can upload data. You can even download resources from the site, like YouTube. It's a dynamic site. Facebook is another one. So like a Google search engine is a dynamic site. So that is what we are talking about. Now let's begin to look at the technologies we will need to build a website. The number one among them is HTML. I will still talk about HTML. The full meaning is hypertext markup language. Then the second one is CSS, which is cascading style sheet. The third one is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language that we are going to learn in this training. Then to be a developer, you need a programming language. So you just need to learn just one. You can decide to learn PHP or Python or Java or JavaScript. There is a difference between Java and JavaScript. I hope you know that. They are totally different from each other. Then Ruby on Rails, which is another language. We have Dart, we have Node.js, we have ASP.NET, we have C#, we have VB.NET, we have Scala, we have Go. There are so many. There are over 100 programming languages in the world. All you need to do is to learn one. But there is something. You notice that number 3 is separate because JavaScript is a web language. And we can use it for other things too. That is why it's also in this group number 4. So then you will need to learn a database language. We use database to create and store our data. Then you will need a web server. We will build server from scratch in this training. Let's say we are learning PHP now. PHP comes with some pre-built server. But in this training, we are going to build our own server using JavaScript. Then lastly, we will need now, before I talk about the last one, this server, I've talked about web server today. And I said a server is a computer. Yeah, correct. It's a physical computer. A server is also a software that lives inside the physical computer that makes your web pages to be available to the world. I hope you know the difference between them now. So a server is both a computer and is both a software. Then you need a text editor or integrated development environment, IDE, integrated development environment. That is where you'll be writing your code, the environment where you will write the code. Now let's begin to take them one by one. This HTML stands for Hypertext Markup. I'm checking time there. Hypertext Markup Language. It is not a programming language, but it's a set of tags. We use tag in HTML. It's the simplest thing you can learn in this skill. So you create tags to design your web page. But the major function of HTML is it gives the structure of a website. That's all. Where the heading will be, where the footer is the lower part of a site, where it will be, where the navigation menu will be, where the sidebar will be, where the images will be located. So all those arrangements are made possible by HTML. So we'll be writing HTML using Notepad or IDE. We are not going to use Notepad. Notepad is raw. It's old style. We'll be using Visual Studio Code. Then let's go to the second one, which is called Cascading Style Sheet. The major work of CSS, which is Cascading Style Sheet, is to add beauty to your site. The difference between a very terrible site that looks like a cultist site and a very appealing, attractive website is the CSS. So your ability to use CSS will make a lot of difference between you and somebody who doesn't know anything about styling, presentation, layout, and formatting the site. So that is the work of CSS. It's to add dimensions, add color, border, spacing, a lot of things. And it's also the second simplest thing you can learn in this key. Then the third technology we'll be looking at is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language. In those days, we only use it for validation of web pages because it works on the client side. Mind you, JavaScript is not the same as Java. You might have heard Java. They are not the same. It's a scripting language formally, but now it's a full programming language that we use in web development. Maybe you have tried to log in Facebook or your email and you see a red message that says password not correct or username is required or enter your correct password with red letter. That is the work of JavaScript. We use it for validation. We use it to to build interactivity into our website. But JavaScript has gone beyond that level. We now use JavaScript for both front-end and back-end development, especially with the advent of some framework like Angular, React, and Vue.js. These are front-end frameworks. I'm going to talk about front-end and back-end later. You understand what I mean by front-end and back-end development. But just take it literally now that we use JavaScript for building a complete application for front and back. Because with Node.js platform, Node.js is a platform that we are going to install that will allow us to create JavaScript outside of the browser. We are going to create server. I mentioned server, if you remember, we are going to create server using Express. That server will communicate with database. So JavaScript is very, very important. That is why I'm focusing on it in this training. The reason why we may want to learn Python is if we want to integrate data science into our web application, we will need to learn Python. So that brings us to a programming language. You pick one of these three, and I will recommend JavaScript, then followed by Python. So we need programming language to power the back end of our website. We need programming language to create dynamic web page, especially when you are dealing with web pages that has database. For example, you create an account on Facebook, and after creating the account, the next time you want to log in, Facebook will remember your face. It's going to remember everything about you, even bring friends that you thought you have forgotten. That is the power of back-end programming. So that the program they wrote to query database, to look for friends that are related to your information you supply when you are registering, that code is written using one of these three languages. So we can still use JavaScript to do that, or Python. They are all back-end languages. So that is why if you are a PHP person, you'll be working with WAMP server. If you are a JavaScript developer, you'll be working with Node.js. Hope you remember this Node.js Express server. I told you we are going to be creating this server with JavaScript because they are back-end operations. If you are a Python person, you'll be dealing with Django server. The back-end part of our application handles connection to database and communication with the database. So you tell the back-end service the name of the database and where it is located, and they handle the remaining. So the major work of a programming language in web development is to connect your website to database, pass instruction to database, and return the database response back to you. So that is the back-end operation of any website. And there are some other, there is another tool you will need is SQL. SQL simply means structured query language. Is a database language that is used to create, store, and manipulate database. Don't worry about this. There is nothing much, because we are going to be using JavaScript to handle this. MySQL and your programming language, they work on the server side. So that is why you will need to create server. But there is a database software called SQLite. It's a lightweight database which is used in most of the mobile application. It's file-based and it doesn't require server. We may also experiment with that as we continue. But just note that you need HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a programming language, and a database language like MySQL. Then we need a server. I've talked about it. You need a programming editor where you write your code. I've talked about it before. And there are many types of programming editors. We have Atom, Notepad++, Text Wrangler. But among them, we are going to be using Visual Studio Code. So I would recommend that you download it and install it in your system, because that is the editor we will be using in this training. I've talked about the client and server side before. There are other tools you will need, and that is the image editor. Paint is a good example. I will show you how to use Paint to edit your image, or Microsoft Picture Viewer. If you are very good in Photoshop or CorelDRAW, that will be an advantage for you, because in web development, we deal with images a lot. Then you need file transfer protocol. That is where you want to host your site. You will need FTP to move your site from your system to the remote server. So that is the work of FTP. You need browsers. I've said it. You have to install 2 or more browsers on your system. Then lastly, we will need cloud storage. So that you don't tell me, oh, my laptop will crash. The work I'm doing for my client, I can't find it again. That would be a very foolish excuse. Sorry to say that, because as a developer, you are going to be pushing your code to a platform called GitHub. GitHub. I don't know whether you are familiar with that. GitHub. So that is it. So you are going to go to github.com. You are going to create an account on github.com and share your link, your address on github.com. Share it with me. It's free. Just go to this address and create an account, because we are going to be pushing our code to GitHub. Then we are going to be using Google Drive. I use Google Drive a lot to store my certificate, my document, they're all in the cloud. So that something happened to laptop will not be an excuse, because everything is in the cloud. So I will stop right here. In the next video, I will talk about what you can become in this training. But before I go there, how do you deploy a website? You will need a hosting account. So I will talk more about this in the next video. I don't want this video to be too long. Thank you for listening.